There is something about walking into a fast food restaurant decades ago that people who experienced it simply cannot forget. The smell of real beef cooking on an open flame, the simplicity of a menu you could read in 5 seconds, the feeling that you were part of something new, something exciting, something that was changing the way America ate. And if someone lived through that era, they know that what we call fast food today barely resembles what it once was. Before the drive-thrus became automated, before the menus stretched across entire walls, before every sandwich was engineered in a laboratory and tested by focus groups, fast food was something entirely different. It was personal. It was local. It was made by people who actually cared about what they handed you through that window. The ingredients were simple. The portions were honest. And the experience of eating out, even at a burger stand, felt like a small event. This was a time when a family could walk up to a roadside counter, order hamburgers for 15 cents each, and sit at a picnic table watching the world go by. No apps, no loyalty programs, no screens flashing calorie counts, just food made fresh, served fast, and eaten without guilt. Let's walk through what fast food actually looked like before everything changed. Some of this might surprise you, some of it might explain why that old burger joint down the street meant so much. Let's step into that world. The origins of fast food in America were tied to the car and the open road. As highways expanded in the 1940s and 1950s, Americans were driving more than ever before. They needed places to eat quickly without leaving their vehicles or spending an hour in a sit-down restaurant. The solution came in the form of small roadside stands, drive-ins, and burger shacks that dotted the American landscape like signposts of a new way of living. These were not chain restaurants. They were independent operations, often family-owned, with hand-painted signs and parking lots filled with cars with chrome bumpers. Car hops would roller skate out to vehicles carrying trays that hooked onto car windows. Families would eat right there in the front seat, kids in the back sharing milkshakes and stealing each other's fries. The food was cooked to order. Burgers were pressed on flat grills by someone who had been doing it for years. The buns were soft and plain, the patties were beef, seasoned simply, and you could taste it. French fries were cut from actual potatoes in the back kitchen, dropped into hot oil, salted generously, and served in paper bags that turned translucent with grease. Milkshakes were made with real ice cream, blended thick enough that a straw could stand up in them. There was no mystery about what was in the food. The ingredients were few and recognizable. The menus at these early fast food spots were remarkably simple. A hamburger, a cheeseburger, French fries, a soft drink, maybe a milkshake. That was it. There were no 20-piece chicken buckets, no breakfast burritos, no salads designed to make you feel virtuous. The simplicity was the point. You walked up, you ordered, and you got your food in minutes. The kitchen was small and efficient. Everyone knew their job. When the McDonald brothers, Richard and Maurice, redesigned their restaurant in San Bernardino, California in 1948, they stripped everything down to the essentials. They eliminated car hops. They reduced the menu. They created an assembly line system for making burgers that was faster than anything anyone had seen. The food came out in paper wrappers instead of on plates. Customers walked up to a window, ordered, and carried their food away. It was revolutionary. The brothers were not trying to build an empire. They were trying to make a better hamburger stand. Ray Kroc saw something bigger when he visited that restaurant in 1954. He saw a system that could be replicated everywhere. By the early 1960s, McDonald's was spreading across the country, each location looking almost identical to the last. The golden arches became a symbol Americans recognized from highways and suburban streets alike. But even in those early franchise days, the food still had a simplicity and a freshness that would gradually disappear. Other chains followed. Burger King opened its first locations, flame-broiling burgers instead of grilling them flat. The Whopper debuted in 1957 and it cost 37 cents. Kentucky Fried Chicken was expanding Colonel Sanders' recipe into a national phenomenon. Taco Bell brought Mexican-inspired food to suburban America. Each of these chains started with a relatively small, focused menu and a commitment to speed and consistency. Before we continue with how the culture around fast food evolved and what eventually changed, if you are enjoying this look back at how Americans really ate and want to explore more stories from the past, consider subscribing. There are so many more decades and moments worth rediscovering together. What made early fast food special was not just the food itself, but the experience surrounding it. Drive-in restaurants were social gathering places, especially for teenagers. On Friday and Saturday nights, parking lots filled with young people cruising in their cars, ordering Cokes and fries, flirting and listening to rock and roll on the radio. The drive-in was where you went to see and be seen. It was community in a parking lot. The architecture of fast food restaurants was bold and attention-grabbing. Buildings were designed to be noticed from the road. Giant neon signs, roofs shaped like boomerangs or flying saucers. Colors were bright, reds and yellows and oranges designed to catch the eye of passing drivers. Every restaurant had personality. Even the early McDonald's locations, with their distinctive red and white tile buildings and single golden arch, looked like something from the future. Inside, the restaurants were clean but basic. Floors were tile or linoleum. Seating was simple, plastic chairs or fixed benches. The decor was minimal. What mattered was the counter where you ordered and the speed at which your food appeared. There was no play area for children, no flat-screen televisions, no Wi-Fi. People came, ate, and left. The entire transaction might take 10 minutes. The workers behind the counter were often local kids earning their first paychecks. They wore paper hats and uniforms, and they moved with purpose. The kitchen was visible through the service window, and customers could watch their food being made. There was a transparency to the process that built trust. You could see the burger going on the grill. You could watch the fries coming out of the fryer. Pricing was part of the appeal. Fast food was genuinely cheap. A family of 4 could eat for under $2. This made eating out accessible to working-class families who could not afford sit-down restaurants. Fast food democratized dining. It was not fancy, but it was satisfying, and everyone could afford it. The ingredients in those early decades were different from what fills fast food kitchens today. Beef was sourced more local. Buns came from regional bakeries. Produce, when it was used, was straightforward. Iceberg lettuce, a slice of tomato, raw onion. There were no preservatives designed to keep a sandwich looking fresh for hours under a heat lamp. The food was made and served. If it sat too long, it was thrown away. Milkshakes deserve their own mention. In the 1950s and the 1960s, a milkshake from a fast food restaurant or a roadside diner was a genuine treat. They were made with real ice cream, scooped from a container, whole milk and flavored syrup, then blended on a spindle mixer. The result was thick, cold, and indulgent. It tasted like dessert because it was dessert. The transition to powdered mixes and shelf-stable ingredients happened gradually, and most customers never noticed the exact moment the shake stopped being real. By the 1970s and into the 1980s, fast food began to change. Chains grew enormous. The pressure to keep prices low while expanding meant finding cheaper ingredients. Frozen beef patties replaced fresh ones in many kitchens. Fries went from being cut in-house to arriving pre-cut, pre-blanched, and frozen in massive bags from centralized processing plants. Menus expanded dramatically. Breakfast items appeared, chicken sandwiches were added, salads, fish fillets, dessert items, and promotional limited-time offers created menus so large they required illuminated boards stretching across entire walls. The dining experience changed as well. Drive-thrus became the primary way people interacted with fast food. Sitting inside the restaurant became less common. The social aspect of the drive-in disappeared entirely. Fast food became something consumed alone in a car, eaten quickly between obligations. The community gathering place became a transaction point. Portion sizes grew steadily. What had been a standard hamburger in the 1950s would look like a children's meal by the 1990s. Supersizing became a marketing strategy. Drinks grew from 8 ounces to 32 ounces and beyond. The relationship between fast food and value shifted from affordable quality to sheer volume. What defined fast food before everything changed was its honesty. The food was simple, made from recognizable ingredients, served quickly by real people in places that had character. It was part of a cultural moment when America was mobile, optimistic, and building something new. The roadside burger stand was as much a part of the American landscape as the highway itself. For those who remember pulling into a drive-in on a summer evening, watching a car hop approach with a tray of fresh burgers and thick milkshakes, the memory carries a weight that goes beyond nostalgia. It was a different relationship with food, with community, and with the simple pleasure of a meal done well. The neon signs have faded. The roller skating car hops are gone. The 15-cent hamburger exists only in memory. But for those who tasted it, that world is impossible to forget. And for those with memories of this remarkable era, there is always more history to explore.